Welcome. Today you're invited to join a team. What does TEAM4Balance stand for? Think, eat, and move for balance, which are universal health goals for us all. The closer we move to balance, the healthier we become. Hi, my name's Monica Cowan. I'm a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer. I was also the nutrition consultant used in the development of NutriMirror.com and the award-winning book Balanced Days, Balanced Lives. I use the TEAM4Balance approach in my own private practice and for personal health goals with positive results, so I'm happy you're here today. To get started, I'd like to share an important quote by Dr. David Katz of Yale University. He says, "Before we ask people to take responsibility, we must make sure they are empowered." TEAM4Balance specifically focuses on empowering you to take control of calorie and nutritional balance. There exists a huge gap between information and application in these two areas, and the exciting news is that we've closed your empowerment gap. Let's take a look at one more quote from an empowerment leader, Larry Smarr. He says, "There is no solution to the medical problem outside a massive increase in personal responsibility. But how do you have responsibility without data and feedback? To know where you are and where you are going, everyone needs quantitative feedback." We agree with this statement. And allow me to illustrate this through a familiar example of driving. So we just learned that data and feedback equals empowerment. Another way to say that is standards and measurement equal empowerment. We know there are a variety of speed limits to comply with. We're familiar with these standards. But how successful could we be if we were expected to comply with speed limits everywhere we went, but weren't provided with a speedometer in our car? Without a measurement tool to gauge our compliance, it would be impossible. Well, the same is true when managing our personalized calorie and nutrition targets. In fact, the inability to measure compliance with these targets was what led to the development of NutriMirror.com. This leads us to Jim's story. Jim Ray is the co-founder of NutriMirror.com and Balanced Days, Balanced Lives. Years ago, he was diagnosed with life-threatening hypertension at a doctor's appointment. As part of his doctor's prescription, he was told to eat 1,500 calories a day and less than a teaspoon of salt. Did Jim leave that appointment empowered? No. He left overwhelmed with his diagnosis and confused about how he was going to take immediate life-saving action with his diet. Jim saw a need to close his empowerment gap. He developed NutriMirror with his creative son, Michael Ray, and became a voice for balance. His desire is to share it with you for free. So how did he find a way to measure his nutritional targets? Allow me to introduce the dietary reference intake tables. These are standards that define nutritional targets for men and women in all life stages. They're basically our nutritional speed limits. We see the example here of calcium. For instance, between the ages of 31 and 50, men and women both need 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day. These DRIs are the best science available, provided by the National Academies of Science. They cover 98% of the population and are evidence-based standards for nutritional balance at the cellular level. Now I'm about to show you how these nutrition standards are finally possible for you to measure in a practical way, kind of like a nutritional speedometer. Introducing NutriMirror's Health Reflection Report. The best way to measure your dietary reference intake nutritional standards is to create your first health reflection report. In addition to the familiar nutrition facts label format, you can expand the label to view 16 additional nutrients. After you log your food and exercise, your nutritional targets are scored in red or green. Green equals balance, red equals imbalance, either you're too high or too low and not hitting your nutritional target. These colors are easy reference points. Through the Health Reflection Report, you can assess your foods leading to imbalance and make modifications that bring you to balance. Here we'll focus on sodium, something that's very high in people's diets typically. So you can click on sodium and red and review the top foods that drove the red scores, and from there make small changes with big impacts. This is what empowerment looks like, because without the ability to measure our performance against standards that define success, we cannot effectively manage the process of improvement. And in fact, the number one predictor of successful behavior change is the ability to measure that behavior. Now, another way to help you out is to give you more ideas beyond the food that you're eating to get in certain nutrients. For instance, here we see dietary fiber, something that's typically very low in the American diet. So you can click on fiber in red, see what your targets are through the dietary reference intakes, see why it's important, and then click on food source examples outside of what you're currently eating to make new and better choices. Let's take a look at Jim's Then and Now Health Reflection Report. When Jim started the process, his health reflection report was all in red, totally out of balance. Over time, through empowerment of the health reflection behavior loop, log, assess, modify, Jim was able to move his report to green, living in balance. For you, creating just one initial health reflection report can be life-changing, showing you where you currently are and where you need to go. The more you log, the better, which is similar to any health behavior. Consistency counts. As you start logging, I'll be honest with you, there is some work involved, but research shows that it's worth it. One example is that people who track what they eat lose twice as much weight as people who don't. So commit to the challenge. When you get stuck, use the Help tab and read the FAQs. One NutriMirror user shared a testimonial saying, "For the first time in my life, I actually feel in charge instead of food being in charge. You guys will never know how much you've done for me." With that in mind, let's take a look at an additional layer of support you have with TEAM4Balance, and that's the NutriMirror community. The NutriMirror community are the men and women on NutriMirror supporting each other through discussions, recommendations, and cheering each other on. I can't overestimate the value of the NutriMirror community. Regardless of dietary preference and needs, everyone is supported in the common pursuit of calorie and nutritional balance. Whether you prefer a gluten-free diet, a vegetarian lifestyle, you're a meat lover, or you follow a regular diet, everyone has a seat at the balance table. This makes for the best peer-to-peer support available, all in a non-diet, non-marketing environment. Another quote from a user said, "I absolutely love the power and insight that NutriMirror gives me. I believe the user community of NutriMirror is at least 50% of my success. NutriMirror rocks." I encourage you to explore the different discussions and see this additional support can be so helpful to your journey. In addition to the NutriMirror tool and community, you've also been provided with the Balance Days, Balance Lives book, which won Best Health and Fitness Book of 2010. Mindsets are a major predictor of success. Balance Days, Balance Lives provides the values, strategies, and mindsets you need to use your data and feedback successfully. Because you can have data and feedback or standards and measures, but if you don't confront self-defeating mindsets at the beginning of the balance process, it just won't be sustainable. So adopt the 8 guiding truths as your keys to lasting change for lifetime weight control and nutritional balance, and you will begin to think, eat, and move for balance. Now that you've been empowered with the guidance, accountability, and community you need, let's share a quick review of the calls to action. Begin by adopting the 8 guiding truths in the Balance Days, Balance Lives book, and create your first health reflection report by logging your food and fitness for 1 day. The more days you log, the easier and more beneficial it becomes. I'm confident this will be the most empowering and enjoyable health journey you've ever embarked on. So have some fun, live in balance, and go for green. Welcome to the team.